All right, everyone. There we go. Here with No Debate Sports is Steve Metrics alongside yo boy, DJ Triggs.
DJ
And
Triggs.
there he is. Thank goodness. There we go. We got the whole gang here. We got everyone here. And today we are covering the NFL draft. And what do you know? It is here this upcoming Thursday, DJ Triggs. How about that? You there, Triggs?
Crazy. I feel like the draft has been taken forever to show up. These last couple months have been really slow for the NFL.
Yeah, it has been. It's definitely been pretty slow since the Super Bowl, especially with the Super Bowl being kind of a low scoring game, and it was what it was. But there's definitely, I don't know, there just hasn't been too much excitement or movement with this NFL draft, in my opinion. I mean, I think it's very obvious what the first two picks are. We know, I guess, the next biggest move is that the Minnesota Vikings now have two first round picks, but they have yet to move up even further with their first round picks. And pretty much everyone's kind of thinking they're going to move around to the 5 spot or somewhere around there, is kind of what I'm seeing. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
You,
know. Quarterbacks is just being just weird. Um, I feel like there's gonna be movement, obviously, because it's the draft. But I don't know. There's not besides quarterbacks. I feel like there's not very much more exciting stuff in the first round, at least.
yeah, I do think I guess the next kind of position that is getting a little bit of buzz is the wide receiver position. So seeing something like, I don't know, I think there's about three really strong looking wide receivers that are going to be in this first round. And I think they're going to be fairly well sought after. But then you have that tight end Brock Bowers from Georgia. I think he's going to start to fall somewhere around the 10 spot. He's looking like he's going to be a pretty big, dominant, almost like a kind of like a Dalton Kincaid, Sam Laporta kind of force. And that's kind of what I'm seeing is going on with kind of around those first 10 picks or so.
A few teams that he could go to and make an impact. But even after him as a tight end, I don't feel like there's much else besides him. It's I don't know. It's really top heavy. I think.
Yeah, I think it is. I definitely think kind of the things that I'm seeing towards the top of the draft are the quarterbacks. I mean, I am seeing a little bit of those wide receivers kind of being sought after, but I I don't know. Like, I just feel like there's going to be so many quarterbacks that I think are going to do well, but I don't think you have to burn too much capital to get way to the top. I think if you're at the top, I think you want to have almost a good handful of these guys that you believe in. And if you believe that's the case, then you should go for it. But I don't know, if you feel like you only have one or two and you have to trade immensely to go up to get them, that's a lot of eggs in one basket from what I'm seeing, especially if you're trying to take Washington or New England spot. It's going to cost a lot to get to those spots.
Yeah, even for the Chargers to get up to where they are, and I mean, I feel like that's going to be the hot pick that um, everyone's going to want to trade for. Uh, Yeah, I I don't know. Like I'm not too overly hyped about this draft, and I don't know why. Like I just think it's really top heavy.
Yeah, yeah, it is. I mean, just kind of looking at the picks, and I think you're spot on about the Chargers. I think they definitely need more capital moving forward, and just having that first overall pick at 5 isn't going to do them much. So I think they'll definitely have someone trade up into their position. The Giants at 6, they're in a weird spot because they paid Daniel Jones a lot of money, yet they don't like him. Basically, that is a complete botchery of how they're operating that franchise. I think the GM and the head coach are doing some really wonky things. That's kind of what I'm seeing from the Giants. But I definitely see the Chargers, the Patriots, maybe the Cardinals, but maybe the Cardinals stay. But at least the 3 and the 5 spot are going to be open for business for anyone that wants to trade into those positions. So that's kind of what I'm seeing. I think with the Cardinals position, I think they are possibly looking at a Marvin Harrison kind of player. Um, but I could even see them moving back too, because we still don't know if 100% that this new Cardinals regime actually believes in Kyler Murray. So I wonder if all of them are up for sale, if all 3, 4, and 5 are available for teams to move into, but a whole lot of like conditional weird trades. I think that's what we're more than likely dealing with is if the spot is available and quarterback X, Y, or Z hasn't gone, that's when I think teams are going to be moving into those spots.
Yeah, that makes sense. Hey,
Yeah.
on my signal on the stream completely just went from like 1 to 2 and then 3 and then is like flying up and down.
Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything too crazy on my end, but yeah, okay. All right. So yeah, okay. Are you hearing me all right, Triggs? Um Yeah, because my signal is looking good, but I'm having a little trouble on your end with your signal, maybe a little bit. Um, yeah, that's kind of what I'm seeing at the moment.
Mm.
Yeah, so I don't know. Do you think we should restart the broadcast?
I think I'm gonna restart. I'll restart on my end.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. So yeah. So the big news that we saw today was Zach Wilson to the Broncos. And I'll be honest, you look at their quarterback room, it is rough. It is Zach Wilson, Ben DiNucci, and Jared Stidham, my former guy from the Broncos. And he was there back with the Raiders about 2 years ago, played pretty well. But that quarterback room for Denver is really rough. However, I do like bringing in Zach Wilson. I think he is probably the third of the bunch. I think the one who I think is clearly the worst is Ben DiNucci. If you've seen him play in the past, it's really rough. I've seen him in a few Dallas Cowboy preseason games, did not see much out of it. So I think he is the guy who, come draft day, he's probably the fourth guy on the totem pole. And we know teams definitely don't carry four quarterbacks. Teams barely even carry three. So that's kind of what I see is going there. I still feel that the quarterback probably going to the Broncos in some way or some form, I think is Bo Nix. I get this feeling that he's the kind of guy to show up there. And if we think about it now the Broncos have played their hand and said we're looking for a kind of a Zach Wilson style kind of a quarterback. So maybe that's a JJ McCarthy, possibly, or a Bo Nix is kind of what I'm feeling. But I just feel the other quarterbacks who are kind of going up at the top, I don't think they uh, emanate anything that is similar to what Zach Wilson is. So that's kind of the two that I think they're leaning towards. I think if I really really think that Drake May is a real almost diamond in the rough that is not really being talked about, and I think for sure Drake May goes in the first three picks, and I just think there's so much smoke and so little of stuff being said, and this isn't like a draft where someone's trying to publish bad news in order to make a certain player drop. We're not seeing that at all from anyone. And I think Drake May, Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, they all go in the top three. What order that 2 and the 3 spot are, that's kind of sort of up in the air. Pretty much think that Jaden Daniels goes to Washington, but I could see either him or Drake May being that guy. It really comes down to who Cliff Kingsbury wants. If that is a bit of a smoke signal to say, hey, we just want to make sure that Drake May kind of falls to us, they have that ability. However, I think we could see probably three teams really picking quarterback back to back to back. So yeah, shout out to Tyler. But yeah, 5 to 6 QBs going in round one. If you're on a certain betting site that allows you to project how many quarterbacks go in round one, the magic number I have actually been hearing is 6. I truly think that that number is 6. So if we look at it, just kind of off the bat, the reason why it is 6 is because Bo Nix and Michael Penix are more than likely both going to go in the first round, but towards the back end or middle of round one. So that means at the top of round one, we're going to see Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, and then we're going to see JJ McCarthy in there as well. So that's why we're going to see 6. It gets a little weird, possibly with Penix and his injury history. But even if Penix isn't in round one, I think you have a possibility that another quarterback could move up to round one that isn't Michael Penix. And that is either the Tulane quarterback or Spencer Rattler. Ironically, there's definitely a lot of chatter going on with those two guys. I saw Spencer Rattler just play today in my recording of the Senior Bowl, and it's pretty good. It's pretty solid. He's definitely had a lot of humbling since his days at Oklahoma that didn't go so hot. He's definitely learned a good deal from Jalen Hurts. Gone to South Carolina, persevered. Definitely had things not go his way, and he played fairly well there. So in today's NFL with the style quarterbacks, I think he's got a shot. And just kind of looking at things, looking at quarterbacks who are of that smaller stature, but still have that ability to play in today's NFL. If I have to think about it, of the guys, and there's a handful of them, honestly, I would put Spencer Rattler at least at number 3 of the 5 that we've seen who are of that. So I don't think right out of the gates he's definitely not better than Drew Brees. We'll see what his career will be and how it compares to Russell Wilson. So I have Russell Wilson ahead of him. But right now, would I take a chance on him and think that he can definitely be better than Kyler Murray and Tua Tagovailoa? Yeah, I can definitely see that being the case. So I would love to put him in a system where he works out to that ability. And I think he would go to a team that would have something similar to that, and he would have the ability to almost rise up. So maybe almost a team like a San Francisco. What if Brock Purdy doesn't end up being the guy, but has that similar kind of style? That could be the case with Spencer Rattler, a team kind of like that. Maybe a team like Arizona behind Kyler Murray. Something to that degree, I think would really work, and I think that could set him up really, really well. So this is why I heard this about a week or so ago, if you do get a chance to bet quarterbacks going in round one, and if that number is like higher or lower than 5.5, maybe a site like Underdog does something like that. I would absolutely take the over and shoot for 6. I think somehow, some way, we get that 6 quarterback, and it may or may not be Michael Penix. And when I really look at this, to me, Michael Penix is straight up Hayden Hooker from last year's draft. And he was raved about, but he tore his ACL. And yeah, you've heard nothing about him. So Hayden Hooker is not the kind of quarterback you want to invest any draft capital in whatsoever. Michael Penix, to me, is exactly that. And Michael Penix is also throwing left-handed. So that means it takes your receivers a little time of acclimating to that kind of style. So I don't like Penix in that kind of scenario, to be honest. And honestly, I think he's going to be like a USFL, XFL kind of player. I think that's where he's going to end up becoming. And I just don't think it's worth the risk of drafting a guy with that much risk. And the glaring thing to me that stuck out to me was a guy like him competed so hard in the regular season with Washington, made it to the college football playoff. He was in the Senior Bowl. There were all these questions about him. He practiced throughout the week and decided on the very last day of the Senior Bowl not to play. That to me screams red flags galore. I think Michael Penix to put himself out there and not bet on himself, and basically has more concern about his capital and is he going to get hurt than just letting it ride and just letting the cards fall where they may. To me, if I'm an NFL franchise, I do not draft this guy at all. I do not think that is a guy to go with. And oh man, that is looking sharper than a crisp $5 bill. It's your boy DJ Triggs. It's got a little paranormal activity going on there.
Oh, I threw my phone.
That happens.
I just hooked myself.
It's like a Luke Bryan concert. And there he is. All right, he's good. He's good.
I'm moving tables and just throwing things and getting wild over here.
That is wild. But the setup looks fresh, man. It looks real good. Awesome.
Oh, man, that was crazy. I don't know. My whole computer just was like, I don't want to connect to the internet anymore. So I just was like, I'm going to use my phone.
Nice. Well, good deal, man. So the thing I was talking about here is kind of how I feel 6 quarterbacks are going in round one. But the guy who is possibly going to fall out of round one, and we know for sure he's not going in the top 15 because the NFL has sent out invites to players that they project are going to be in the top 15 of the draft live in Detroit, players that they'll fly out, invite, and they're in the green room, just like Aaron Rodgers back in the day. Players are in the green room, and neither Michael Penix or Bo Nix were invited. I think Bo Nix, I think Bo Nix, to me, definitely goes in the top 15. Michael Penix, I don't think so. But there is no, like, I'm just looking at this draft order here, and I keep saying to myself, like, Denver Broncos and Bo Nix, I think that's going to happen. Right now, at this point, Denver is 12. So I just don't see a reality where if that's the case, that doesn't happen. If by some manner Denver or Vegas doesn't move up, then Vegas is right behind Denver at 13. There's just too many teams that need quarterbacks within the top 15. So I don't get what's going on with the Bo Nix thing not being invited to Detroit. I don't like it. I mean, I like how Bo Nix has persevered. I'll be honest, if Jaden Daniels didn't have the season he had, Bo Nix would have been the Heisman.
Wow.
Yeah,
That is a hot take of hot
that
takes right
that's no
there.
debate, man. Like,
Woo.
I mean, Jaden Daniels threw like what 60 touchdowns and something ridiculous. Like it was like 4 or 6 interceptions, and Bo Nix is like right behind him. I think Bo Nix had like 40 or 50 and like 5 interceptions. Like it was crazy, crazy, crazy good.
You know what? Like, I actually think Bo Nix is a lot better than people are giving him credit for. I don't know why he's not higher. I don't know if it's just he's just not the sexy pick or what, but I've seen him as high as 5,
Yeah.
and then I've seen him as low as the second round. So like,
Yeah, I know. I mean, for me, like Bo Nix, I have him. In all honesty, I would either have him as the second or third best quarterback in this draft. I
wow.
think, yeah, I really think the world of Jaden Daniels, the way he plays. Then I would have Bo Nix at 2, just based off the Heisman. Both these guys have had a good amount of reps in college that they've shown who they are. So we know what we're going to see. Then after that, then I would probably have Caleb Williams at 3, even though he's going to go 1. I think I'd have Drake May at 4. And then honestly, after that, I would probably go Spencer Rattler for now.
See, I'm not even sold on Caleb Williams like at all. So I'm
That's
kind of
why I move
glad
him
that like
down.
I'm glad that you've got him as your second. I really like Jaden Daniels. I
Yeah.
like he reminds me of Lamar Jackson kind of. Um
Yes.
Not I don't think he's as fast because that's saying a lot. Um but he is something else. Like but he's also not very like he's not very big. If like you
Right.
look at him and you're like, "Oh, that's a wide receiver." Oh
Right.
no, he's a quarterback. Like, I don't know.
Right. No, it's totally true. It's totally true, totally legit. I just think that Jaden Daniels has that ability. He has the strong passing arm. To me, he's got a little bit of CJ Stroud in him. But there
Okay.
is a yeah, so that's kind of the style I see in him. To me, there is kind of a Lamar Jackson in this draft, but he's got to have some mechanics kind of cleaned up. But the poise, when I look at the guy, the poise that I see, his ability to kind of maneuver, and I think this guy is actually better outside the pocket than Lamar Jackson's, which I know isn't saying much. But I think there is the possibility that he can be an all around complete player, but I think he's going to end up getting drafted by a really, really good offensive coordinator team. And that is the Tennessee quarterback, Joe Milton III. I
Huh.
think that guy, I mean, you can watch, if anyone wants to watch the Senior Bowl on him, there's some ugly stuff. I'll give you that. His offensive line was garbage. There were plenty of times where he kind of ran outside the pocket, did some things, had 2 interceptions. One was kind of weird. One was, to me, a player that really normally wouldn't be covering that amount of ground and intercepted a touchdown pass at the end zone. So I get it, but there are some measurables with him that I just don't think you can coach. But I think the stuff that I saw in the game that looked bad, I definitely think a really, really good offensive minded head coach can definitely knock that stuff, knock that rust off him over the next year or so. So honestly, looking at Joe Milton, I think he is going to go to a team, and I think he's going to go to a team fairly. I don't know. I could see it maybe being like round 3 or round 4. But if I had to invest in a guy like that, and I'm a team that's looking to like make sure I double up and make sure I have a suitable backup and a guy that he can learn from and something of that nature, to me there are at least 3 teams I can just nail off the top of my head. The number one team I think he will go to is Indianapolis. I think he would be a great prototype behind Anthony Richardson. We've seen Richardson get banged up. I think this would be that kind of style. Richardson has a big arm. So does Joe Milton. and Shane Steichen is pretty much like the best or second best offensive coordinator in the NFL to me behind Andy Reid. So there's something to be said about Shane Steichen and what he does. So I could see Indianapolis being a good fit. I could see Kansas City being a really good fit behind Patrick Mahomes. And I could also see, to be honest, the stuff behind Jordan Love does not look great. And I think this would be a really good prototype potentially behind Jordan Love and a little bit of insurance in case Jordan Love is not the guy.
In case Jordan Love is not the guy?
I think he is the guy, but I'm a little bit concerned. Like, I just don't want to see Green Bay do what Philadelphia did with Jalen Hurts. That is my biggest concern. I don't want to see them just unload the bag and then something looks a little wonky and you don't look quite right, and all of a sudden you're like 400 million in the hole. That's my concern. Like, that's why you just gotta play it out, see him go through this season, and it will more than likely be great, and that will get him his big time contract. But there also needs to be capital behind him in case he goes down. That is something too that Green Bay has really nothing suitable behind him if he gets hurt.
Wow. Wow. I didn't think I would hear that today. That's holy cow.
Yeah.
That's hurtful.
I'm not saying it's hurtful. I'm just saying, like, man, I'd be really worried if I were a Green Bay Packer fan. I mean, I know I got my situations in Vegas, but I know at the same time too that if we draft one of these 5 or 6 guys we're looking at, that's basically anyone not named Michael Penix or JJ McCarthy, I'm feeling pretty good. So that's kind of what I'm hoping for, because then I know, like, great, my quarterback room, I got 3 guys. I can pretty much go to battle with any of those 3, and I'll be all right. Chicago is going to have Caleb Williams. They have the other guy behind him who was Justin Fields' backup, and that guy's fine too. So I think they got those 2 guys. I think they'll be all right. But I do have concern if I'm like a Green Bay, and you're like, I don't know. I mean, you got to have at least 2 quarterbacks in today's NFL for sure.
Okay. I mean, yeah, true. I don't know. I'm not really concerned about the backups, especially in Green Bay at least. I don't see Jordan Love as like a guy that puts himself in a lot of danger to get hits and
That's
extra
true.
yards and stuff like that.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't know. That's not really a concern of mine. But there was a name that you said that caught me. How do you feel about JJ McCarthy?
I think the only way he succeeds is if by some miracle he winds up with the Minnesota Vikings. Whoever winds up with the Minnesota Vikings is going to have success. But if you that's it. I mean, if he goes to any team that is really a defensive oriented defensive oriented coach, I don't think that he's going to do well. And I'm kind of feeling that for some of these guys too. I think he's one. I think possibly Drake May might be one. But I have seen JJ McCarthy play twice in some pretty big spotlight games. Once against Ohio State, once against Penn State, and he looked bad in both. He looked really bad in both.
Yeah, I know a lot of places that I've looked up and kind of mocked around with have him going to like either the Vikings or the Giants, and I'm like, oh, that could be rough if that guy goes to the Giants. But he's, I really feel like the Vikings are going to try to hop up in that top 5 and get themselves a quarterback.
Yes.
I mean, cross fingers. As a Packer fan up here, we hope they go with Sam Darnold, but but
Possibly.
yeah,
I know that those group of guys that are all friends, whether it's the Green Bay Packers head coach, the Vikings head coach, the Rams head coach, the Niners head coach, and the Bengals head coach. All of those guys are like really tight. They're really good friends. They're all really good offensive minded head coaches. All 5 of them like Sam Darnold. That I know.
Yeah, it's weird. I've heard those same like things. I'm like, what if Minnesota just shocks the world and they bring in Marvin Harrison Jr., right? And
Yes,
they move on from Justin Jefferson
I
because
think
we've
that's
heard
real.
those kind of that kind of buzz going on.
Yes.
And speaking of Marvin Harrison, like the dude he's 6'4", 6'5",
Yeah.
and is like is studly. I mean,
I think he's
he
CD Lamb.
oh, okay. Yeah, that's not a bad comparison. Like,
Yeah.
and I know people wanted to kind of like say he's not the number one receiver and stuff like that.
I don't think he is, but I still think he's up there.
I do. The only reason that I even like uh let some of that stuff like hearing some of that stuff like oh he's number 2 or 3 or whatever.
Yeah. That's
He had
about
a
where I
pretty
go.
bad year last year, or not bad, but per se. But he wasn't getting the ball thrown to him by a top 5 quarterback in this draft.
Yeah, CJ
Um,
Stroud is gone.
yeah, a lot of these other guys, had what's his name? I'm blanking. Malik Neighbors
Sure.
had another top 5 pick throwing him the football. Uh,
Rome Odunze,
Rome, yeah,
top 7 quarterback.
yep. And it's like, well, all right, that can give you a little bit of difference right there, but I think if he goes to the right situation or right scenario, like he could be the best player in the draft by far.
Yeah, I think it's highly possible. I do like that scenario with Jefferson moving on and something with the Vikings moving up. I think that's the most likely highest capital that a team has. The Vikings have 2 number 1 picks plus Justin Jefferson. If they want to skyrocket with all 3 of those things being dealt to move all the way up to wherever they want to go, they have that ability. No other team has that real ability, to be honest. The only team that I think is close is myself and the Las Vegas Raiders. But we don't have a second number 1 pick. We have a number 1 pick and possibly Devontae Adams. But kind of what you said too, like about Marvin Harrison, I feel that's going on with Devontae Adams. Like Devontae is a great wide receiver. I think he is one of the top 3 in the entire NFL, but with the quarterbacks that have been throwing him the ball, it's kind of screwed up his tempo, his pace of play, and it's really screwed up some of his numbers to a degree as well. So I think you're spot on that Marvin Harrison is clearly better than what we think he is from this past season. And he should fall to a team that can really utilize him. And if that's a case, like possibly a Chicago, there could be something scary there.
That's what I had thought earlier, this year when draft mocks were coming out and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Um, I really like the idea of the Bears trying to get Marvin Harrison at what 9,
sure.
if he could fall that low. I
I
also
think the
think that
Bears would have to trade up to
I
get
do too.
Harrison.
I do too. Now I
Yeah,
do for sure.
yeah,
Um, Before I thought there might be a defensive player here, or if there's a trade up for. I really think the Chargers are trading out of 5. Like
yeah. Oh, yeah.
the only way they stay. Now, hear me out. It's gonna sound crazy
Sure.
because they don't have like any of their weapons on offense anymore.
Right,
Keenan
they're all
Allen
gone.
and Mike Williams both leaving.
And Gerald Everett.
Yep. Well, I'm glad you said that name. What if they grabbed Brock Bowers?
That would be interesting. Plus, fortifying that offensive line in a hybrid kind of way um, for Justin Herbert would be excellent, actually.
Like he's, believe it or not, watching a lot of film lately. He's probably like, dare I say it, my favorite player in the draft.
Nice. Yeah. And the thing is, too, I mean, Looking at kind of what we see in fantasy and what is going on in real life. And granted, we know in the real NFL draft, they actually draft individual NFL positions for defense, unlike us in fantasy where we just draft a defense. Um, I think there is part of that that's in play. And I think it is true that if you do have one of the best tight ends in the game, if you kind of look at it from like a war angle, and we do this with our bona fide metric for no debate sports, is that the tight end to me is incredibly valuable. When they are that good, they are just so much more valuable than any other position in the game. So a Brock Bowers with a Justin Herbert could be like the second coming of like Philip Rivers and Antonio Gates. I think that's really real, and I think it would actually be a great move on their part.
Yeah, like I was thinking about this for a while. I'm like, okay, let's say the Chargers don't trade out. They just don't get something that, blows their socks off.
Yeah.
They're
Are
not
the
going to go,
Giants going to move up from 6 to 5? I just don't feel it.
especially since they know the Chargers. I mean, uh, maybe they do know the Chargers aren't going to go quarterback. But what if the Chargers traded Justin Herbert? Like,
That is
what
also
if,
possible.
right? What if Hardball is, he's like, oh, Hardball is like, oh, I want my quarterback. I want JJ McCarthy.
Yes.
And he moves on from Justin.
Yes.
What could you get for Justin Herbert? Two
You
firsts?
you could get a lot. You could really get a lot. You could get multiple ones to begin with. I think that is truly being discussed. I think Harbaugh is looking for an overhaul. And to be honest, Harbaugh, he flips teams pretty quick. He really does. College is more difficult to flip a team than the NFL. We saw Harbaugh at Michigan took about maybe 3 years to do it. At Stanford, it took him two. And with San Francisco, I want to say it took him about two. So I think with Harbaugh, he can flip an NFL team in about 2 years. If that's the case, and he wants to be moving that fast, you move on from Herbert, and then you essentially bring in JJ McCarthy, and you get multiple first round picks. You move off of the crazy expensive cap that is on Herbert. If
Yep.
that's the case, I think flat out Herbert would honestly, I think Herbert would probably move to the Minnesota Vikings. And I think Minnesota would be getting a ransom amount of picks and all sorts of stuff galore. I mean, they would almost have 3 first round picks, I think, in this draft.
Right. I mean, he's literally getting a top 10 quarterback salary, I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken. Um,
Or
and
actually, my bad. I have this flipped. The Chargers would be getting those picks.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So the
And
Chargers would have 3 first round picks then.
right, and that's completely bananas, right?
Yes.
And why why wouldn't you do that? What do most of the big wigs on the four letter network think, right?
They don't think
The,
this.
no, they don't think this. What I mean is like the best window to win a championship is that quarterback on a rookie deal.
Absolutely.
You've already sent out both of your high paid receivers. You sent out your highest paid running back. You then send out your high paid quarterback, and you get the guy that Harbaugh just coached in Michigan,
Yep.
and he restarts.
And he knows the pipeline of Michigan guys coming up, as well
Yeah,
as a few other probably Big Ten, uh, possibly ACC, maybe a little SEC action of those guys coming up the pipeline. He knows those guys. So he has more insight and can make more happen with the NFL draft than any of these other coaches, for sure. So, man, if you have a draft, you get 3 first round picks like that, this is definitely the time to do it. And I could definitely see Harbaugh begin to be making those moves.
Right. I mean, Herbert's making the third highest most for a quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah,
And I mean, you can argue the Chargers have been a failure since he's
I
been
agree.
drafted. Uh,
Absolutely.
and I know they're in the same division as the Chiefs and yada yada, but it's like when do we ever think to take them as a serious contender? We don't.
Yeah, we don't. And as bad as my Raiders have been, we have basically owned the Chargers and Broncos for at least the last 5 years. So
Totally.
it doesn't feel like they are that good of a team, even with Justin Herbert. And to be honest, over the last 2 seasons, I've actually thought that Austin Eckler has been the scariest part of that offense.
Yeah. I
So
mean, easily.
yeah. So if that's the case, then if Justin Herbert is clearly not your number one player on offense, and you already sent that Austin Eckler guy to another team, then I think it is only fitting that you also deal Justin Herbert and his massive contract that as a new head coach, you just don't want to deal with. It's too much. The guy broke a bunch of ribs not too long ago as well. So it does kind of concern you with his toughness of, well, not only did he break ribs, he also broke like a middle finger on his throwing hand. There's legitimate risk there. So I would do it actually. I would see if I can move on from Justin. He's a great guy. I get it, but if I can move on from that guy, I would do it actually.
Right. Because, I mean, I just pulled up their depth chart and it's like Joshua Palmer, okay, solid. Uh,
Oh,
Quentin Johnson, solid. Darius Davis, I'm going to be honest, I don't even know who that is.
I don't know who that
They
is.
they have Will Desley and Hayden Hurst at tight end. It's like
It's
they
a
have
little rough.
holes everywhere,
Yeah,
like
yeah, that's
everywhere.
yeah.
They
Hayden
only have
Hurst stinks.
Yeah, they have four wide receivers total. And then their running backs are basically Baltimore 2.0 with Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah.
It's like, do you think that team's going to the playoffs?
Oh, not this season.
No.
I'll be honest. So something I want to do at some point soon is I do kind of want to make like every few weeks before the NFL season starts. I do want to kind of place some like just kind of over under bets of these teams, and I've seen the Chargers projected for like 8 or 9 wins. I just don't think they get anywhere close to that. I think that's a team that
No.
might get 6, like
Yeah,
if they're lucky.
I was going to say, if they're lucky. Because,
Yeah.
man, that
I
doesn't
mean,
sound good at all.
weren't they projected to like win against Green Bay, and Green Bay kind of like clobbered them?
I believe so. I can check that really quick. But,
Yeah.
yeah, there's not much to be happy about with that team.
No. I think everything between age, injuries, salary caps, I think that team is truly a disaster. There's a reason why they're picking fifth. Like they're bad. They're
Yeah.
really, really bad. And I know everyone thinks that, oh, this is the year the Chargers beat the Chiefs and win the division. I have never thought that in any of the last 5 years ever.
Yeah, they were 5-12 that last year. Like,
Yikes.
and I mean, think of it this way: at when they lost to the Packers, they were 4-6. That means they went 1-6 on the rest of the way through the season. That's horrible.
Yeah. Yeah, that team is really in dire straits, and that's including the weapons they've had. I mean, for whatever reason, they've decided to hold on to Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa and unload the entire offense. I think the ace in the hole is Justin Herbert gets moved. I think that's the biggest thing that's going to happen next.
Yeah, I mean, and they have playmakers. I mean, on defense, Denzel Perryman's out there. They've got Asante Samuel Jr. Like
Yeah,
they I mean, besides the two big names you named, and it's like, why is this team not good? It's the offense. The
yeah,
offense is not good. I know we blame their head coach decisions and stuff like that. The offense is not good. Justin Herbert's the head of that. He's what top five quarterback being paid, and
Yeah.
he's not worth it.
I do think an interesting team that he could go to, considering a team that has salary cap, has equity, I could see him possibly being on the move to my Raiders. If we don't think any of these guys is worth it, we have his former GM. We have the guy that drafted Justin Herbert in Tom Telesco. I could see us being a team that says, we'll make a deal for Justin Herbert. I don't know what it would cost, but it would probably cost multitudes of picks for sure. But that's kind of another possibility that I could see is if he doesn't go to Minnesota, I think him going to Las Vegas could truly happen.
Or yeah, I was going to say that the number one idea in my brain is Minnesota.
Yeah,
Um,
Minnesota is number one for sure.
that and again, I'm not saying he's a bad quarterback by any means, but he's just not getting it done down there.
Yeah.
Minnesota's already set up for a veteran quarterback to come in and play with these. I mean, Aaron Jones, TJ Hawkinson's over there, Justin Jefferson, like
The
that.
the Southern Cal wide receiver there is awesome, Jordan Addison.
Yeah, Jordan Addison. Yep.
I think
Uh,
yeah, it's
I
awesome.
can't, I can't remember if KJ Osborne's still there, but like
I believe he is. He's excellent too.
that that's a stacked offense.
It is with a great offensive minded head coach. That works really really well there.
Oh, they have N'Keal Harry too. Didn't
Okay,
know that.
yeah. And he's been a little banged up, but like, man, the way that that guy breaks away on speed and his reach on catches, I've always been a fan of N'Keal Harry. He's just had really bad luck, but man, I think the world of that guy, despite the unfortunate circumstances that have happened with N'Keal Harry. I think he's a really really good receiver if he didn't get hurt.
Agreed. Agreed. And if he didn't play in New England,
And Chicago,
yeah,
unfortunately.
that's it's
Yeah.
rough. That's
It
rough.
is. But I do think too, I think if we rolled it back far enough, I think he actually played college with Jaden Daniels.
Oh, hmm,
Yeah. Cuz
didn't know that.
yeah, N'Keal Harry was definitely from Arizona State. Somebody was slinging the rock to him and there were some really well thrown balls and I definitely want to say that would be Jaden Daniels if that's the case. Cuz man, the tape on N'Keal Harry at Arizona State was like it was like Brandon Ayuk good.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really good. But who's throwing him the rock? It's got to be Jaden Daniels. That's my guess.
I
So,
I wouldn't know that.
yeah, I don't know. But that's kind of why I'm going with that. But man, that's like I do think it's possible and I have heard for a long time that Minnesota is possibly looking to move off of Justin Jefferson. What if you also have a deal that involves the Chargers that say, all right, we will take in Justin Jefferson and we will give you Justin Herbert along with some weird, crazy amount of picks. I think that's likely. I think that's very, very likely to make that happen. Plus, it would be on turf. It would work. And to be honest, the taxes between Minnesota and California are ironically not that different, not by much.
I didn't think about that. Huh.
Yep. So he'd be playing on turf. He would have pretty much zero change in taxes. It would go up a little bit for him, but it wouldn't be much.
That's a that's that's a thing that I did not think about. Sending
Exactly.
Justin Jefferson for uh Justin Herbert.
Yep. That's no
Wow.
debate. You heard it here
Yeah,
first, guys.
that just completely just blew my mind right now to the
It
point where I'm
does.
like, huh,
Yeah.
why has no one ever thought about that?
I think it makes a ton of sense. And basically, you kind of get to start fresh on both sides. Your change in money isn't too bad considering what both positions dictate on the higher end of cap salaries. So you're not really scared of either if that's the case. So should it be Justin Jefferson for Justin Herbert? both teams are equipped to take on those caps, and they're both equipped on moving their teams in the directions they need to go with gaining or losing those players. So I think it makes a ton of sense. Plus, you have the capital of picks from Minnesota that can be worked out as well. That could truly be a win-win for both teams.
Yeah, I'm almost stunned by that. Like,
Yeah,
I really like that idea because
yeah,
then you're talking about picks and like moving and maybe they swap picks and swap players.
absolutely. Yeah, you can swap picks, swap players, gain middle round picks. There's so much that you can do with it. And let's go back in a weird way to bring up how this can happen. I want to bring this up way early in the show. Zach Wilson to the Broncos. And I'm not saying that like, wow, Zach Wilson to the Broncos is big, but relating this to what we're talking about with the Vikings and the Chargers dealing for Justin Herbert, this Zach Wilson trade to the Broncos has been discussed between the Jets and Broncos over the last month. So if something as insignificant as Zach Wilson to the Broncos has been being talked about for a month, then I would think the Vikings and Chargers have been talking for a long amount of time, at least ever since Jim Harbaugh landed in California. That's what I'm thinking.
Interesting.
Yeah. So there are deals that are being schemed that are already in the works that have not been disclosed or talked about. And I know guys like Ian Rappaport, Tom Pelissero, they know of dealings that are actually occurring as we speak that they cannot talk about. So there are multiple deals out there already in the works that they're not disclosing because for obvious reasons, but they are occurring. So there are deals already in the works, but we as the public don't exactly know which ones they are. But I am 100% planting a flag that there are massive discussions between the Vikings and Chargers. I think that is clear as day, especially with the Jefferson, Herbert, multiple picks. There's just so many ways you can wheel and deal between those teams that I think they are clearly talking to each other.
So I did just see a monkey wrench that so when Herbert got his extension, the 5 years, 262 million,
Oh, did he go no trade clause?
he got a no trade clause.
Ah,
But
but he could waive it.
I was gonna say, if the option of playing in Minnesota in a dome with, you know, now we're taking away Justin Jefferson,
I'd
but we're
still
still
go.
giving you Aaron Jones and you know, N'Keal Harry
Yeah.
and Jordan Addison and TJ
Oh,
Hawkinson. Like,
I can't pack my bags fast enough to get out of LA right now.
right. And then Minnesota, let's just say that happens and they keep their pick. They get a shot at one of those top three wide receivers and they can add that on because Minnesota's defense is pretty solid already. You add at one of those receivers.
And look at the job Brian Flores did in 1 year. He took a defense that was at the bottom of the cellar of the NFL and basically took them from worst to almost first. So
Yeah,
they can do all these things on offense.
that's
Yeah.
that is scary.
I think the Justin Herbert thing, now that we've kind of mapped it out, I think it happens. I think it makes a ton of sense. I know outside of football, something about Justin Herbert that might put a little bit of a wrench in this. Yeah, considering who he's kind of a certain special lady in his life. She definitely works in the state of California. So I think if he goes to a totally different state in a totally different quadrant of Minnesota, that might change things. But if I'm Justin Herbert, I mean, I care about my longevity of the NFL, and I would definitely go to Minnesota like that. I just think it's so much a better situation. Plus, you need coaches that can advocate for you. And I think if that's the case, then Jim Harbaugh is clearly in the process of not advocating for him. So you need to go to somewhere that you're wanted. And Herbert, regardless of money, you need to go to where you're wanted. Minnesota is craving a franchise quarterback now that they lost Kirk Cousins.
Totally. Now I'm a little intrigued. You said a certain young lady.
Yes.
Let's just put it this way: is it safe to search who his
Yeah.
young lady is? Oh,
Oh,
okay.
yeah. No, this isn't like the likes of Jimmy Garoppolo. I can tell you
Okay.
that. Hey,
Just making sure.
it's safe. She's a great person. Totally safe. Totally not Jimmy Garoppolo likes. So yeah. But that's the only thing that I think would kind of come in the way of this. And that's it. Like, I really think that's the only case that this could happen. Other than that, I think Justin Herbert clearly goes to Minnesota. And you're a grown up, man. Like, you're getting paid millions of dollars. You can make this work. When you're that much of a professional, if it's a long distance relationship, you can figure it out. But you need to go to where you're wanted, and you need to go where there are weapons and where you can win a Super Bowl. And that is clearly Minnesota, if that's the case.
All right. So I am safely searching
Oh,
who this young
safely.
lady is.
Safely.
It's kind of scary. I was like, wait, who am I looking for?
So last time I looked, she is a NFL broadcaster for the NFL Network, and she's
Oh,
a great person. So there's
oh,
really nothing wrong, and life is good.
okay. Well,
Yeah,
okay. Color me intrigued.
yeah.
And
So there you
surprised.
go. There you go.
That's
So
no debate.
that's no debate there. There you go. So good stuff. Good stuff for the both of them. But I'm with you on this. If I'm Justin Herbert, like right now, I'm already pissed that pretty much my entire weapons got dealt. I would not be okay with that.
Agreed. But the Zach Wilson to the Broncos. What are you hearing on this? What is this all about?
Oh, like literally that was my main reasoning for us to discuss it, is the fact that that was a deal that was in the works over the last month, just like this discussion between the Chargers and the Vikings.
Okay.
Other than that, I see Zach Wilson to the Broncos truly being a project and truly being something that he is going to be behind one of these better end quarterbacks. And I think Zach Wilson is clearly the third quarterback on the Broncos. It will be Jared Stidham is going to be your starter. Then it's going to be whoever they draft. And then it's Zach Wilson. That is their quarterback room.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Now,
and Ben DiNucci's gone.
okay, Ben DiNucci's gone. All right, we don't care about Ben DiNucci, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I've seen him play. It's bad.
That makes sense. Where do the Broncos draft? Are they a late
12.
12?
Yeah, they draft 12. It is them at
Oh, yeah.
12 and Vegas at 13.
Yep. Okay, I'm with you. Now, do they go? Everything I'm seeing is they're going to go defensive line. Do you think they should go quarterback and pull one of those, like a Michael Penix or someone early, a Bo Nix?
I think Bo Nix. I think Bo Nix. I have always felt Bo Nix to the Broncos, to be honest.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
I can see that.
So honestly, I think Bo Nix will fall to them. That's what I feel. I don't think you have to trade up to 5 or trade up anywhere. I think the Giants, a rookie quarterback is not going to save that team at all. So honestly, the Giants have a lot of work to do, and the Giants are probably going to be one of the top 5 teams drafting next season. So don't just draft Bo Nix and think that he's going to save New York, because honestly, both your quarterbacks you have in the Giants right now to me are better than Bo Nix. Honestly, I think both Daniel Jones, I do think to a degree we're not giving Daniel Jones enough credit. And I also think the Italian guy, I think he's really good too. It's just been a really weird season for the Giants, and they need to begin having continuity. So I would start to focus on the majority of the team first, and then when you're ready, then you hit that reset button and you get in that rookie quarterback, you get a veteran, and you figure it out. But Brian Dable may or may not be the head coach at that point, so that's kind of what we're dealing with.
Yeah, the Giants are an interesting team. I mean, yeah, everyone likes Tommy DeVito. They got Drew Lock over there.
Oh, nice. That's cool. Yeah,
They
honestly,
really
if
just
I'm
want to
them,
get
I
rid
don't
of.
even draft a quarterback.
Yeah, I'm almost. Maybe they could wait a year because then Daniel Jones' contract, I believe, falls off next year, or they can get out of it.
Yeah, that's cool.
Um, their team is not good on offense.
No.
I mean,
Yeah. The
Devin
offensive line is
Singletary,
bad.
yeah,
You know who I'll put up there that I think they should take, and they're in like a really good spot. And I know everyone thinks the Tennessee Titans are going to like take care of the offensive line immediately. What if the Giants take Joe Alt? I think that would be a great pick.
yeah. I mean, the problem with the Giants is they're another team that they have weapons, but like they're not household names and they're not really
Although
scary.
how about this? How about I flip this? Other than Saquon Barkley, who's gone, cool. I fortify the offensive line. Then I have Darren Waller, Darius Slayton, Jalen Hyatt. I have that wide receiver from the Buffalo Bills, who I never remember his name, but he's kind of good.
Isaiah
Um,
McKenzie.
yes, Isaiah McKenzie. So I have that. And then I have to get a wide receiver. I get it. And I have to get a running back. But my quarterback should be able to make that work. If I can take care of the offensive line and then probably get some kind of like really good running back, we might have something. I don't know if the Giants defense is good or garbage. I really have no idea, to be honest. But that could be the works of actually having a good offense. And you have Brian Dable as a head coach. He is a good offensive mind. I think he is probably one of the top 15 head coaches in the NFL, to be honest. If he can do what he did on offense a few years ago, he was the NFL head coach of the year 2 years ago. He should be able to ride this ship. I don't think it's as bad as it looks, but you have to start doing things correctly. And we've seen their GM do some weird things. I don't even know if they fired a GM and brought in a new one. But honestly, over the last 5 years, I think their GM has been doing some really shaky stuff. And it's really starting to have repercussions on the coach. And that's never a good sign.
Yeah. The Giants, I was looking it up. They were one of the lowest ranked defenses in the NFL
Oof.
in points allowed. They were bottom like 6 or 7.
Yeah.
Um, and like I actually like that idea because so that breakdown of getting them some offensive line help early, right? Perfect.
Yep.
Then in the second round, you might be able to get a pretty good wide receiver still. Um, or if you flip that and you get a wide receiver first round, a pretty solid offensive line in the second round, these running backs that act like a Braylon Allen or someone like that in the third or fourth round could be studs. And it's just this NFL stigma of, don't draft a running back in the first round. Like these guys could be actual like top running backs.
Yeah.
They
A-
could be set.
Absolutely. To be honest, any offensive weapon in my book that's drafted in round 4 or earlier is something you really got to keep your eyes on. Like that is expensive capital, regardless of who they are, where they are. If it's anywhere from 4 or earlier, those guys are pegged to be starters. That's why they drafted them in those 4 rounds.
Yep. That makes
So
sense.
yeah, anything from round 5 and beyond, that is kind of maybe they make it to a starting role, maybe they don't, and maybe they don't even succeed at all. That's when you start taking flyers on players. But if it's round 4 or earlier, like you really, really want that player to be a starter. That's why you're doing that. That's why the Chiefs took like Rashee Rice in round 2, because they projected him to be a starting wide receiver. Now he's got issues off the field, so now they're already looking at that again. So it's going to be a revolving door for the Chiefs, but that's what you're looking at when it comes to drafting those kinds of players. So I think it's very likely that we could see that kind of scenario. Whoa.
I dropped myself.
It happens. Nice. Nice.
I don't
So
know why I dropped myself, but I did.
it happens, man. It happens to the best of us.
But one of the other things I was thinking about is, well, by the way, I don't know if we can talk with Rashee Rice. He's kind of illegal to talk about right now.
He's got legal matters, I can tell you that.
Yeah, that's no debate right there. I'll tell you.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
But when we're talking running backs and like, I don't know why these like big boards don't really have. There's no like running back that jumps off the page that makes you go, "Oh, that guy's got to be picked up." And I don't understand that.
To me, there's 2 of them. There's definitely 2 of them.
Okay, who do you got?
The running back from Michigan and the running back from Oregon. Those
Not
are the
Texas.
Not Texas. No,
Okay.
I honestly I haven't seen that guy play. I haven't seen too much of his highlights that make me go like, wow, this is Bijan Robinson 2.0. So I'm not as geeked up about that guy, but I'm definitely excited about the Michigan guy and the Oregon running back. I think those 2 guys are absolutely home run hitters. I think they're both Saquon Barkley caliber or better.
So the only problem I have with the Oregon player, Bucky Irvin is his name. So he's really good on tape. He's young, but he's 5'10", 195. And compared to a lot of the guys around him, he's pretty small.
Okay.
I honestly don't see any other running back under 200 pounds. I'm just looking through.
He'd be playing with like my measurables, essentially.
Yeah. And what's the other guy? Blake Corum from Michigan.
Michigan. Yeah, that guy's really good.
He is, but he's 24 years old.
That's fine.
Which, yeah, but you're only going to get one contract out of him, like tops.
I get it. Yeah, that's fine. And I can live with that. If I'm in an NFL franchise, I can live with that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, most running backs only get one contract, but it's I'm looking at Pro Football Focus right now, and
sure,
they have him at the second running back taken, but his season grade was 60th, which kind of blows my mind a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, Michigan won their games on the ground. They pound and ground and play defense, and they out physical, they out tough you. That's what Jim Harbaugh is going to build with the Chargers. And they did that. They didn't win with J.J. McCarthy. I can tell you that. Right. So they won in spite of J.J. McCarthy and in spite of college football defenses being anywhere close to NFL defenses. That's how they won. And Blake Corum is the heart and soul of that offense, along with that fantastic offensive line that the Michigan Wolverines had. That's how they got it done against these more physical SEC teams like I want to say they played Alabama, if I'm correct. Yeah, they played Alabama. So and everything they did in the Big Ten. So that's how Jim Harbaugh built that team, and that's what Blake Corum did. I think Blake Corum is going to find his way onto hopefully a team that has a really good offensive line and continue doing what he did at Michigan.
So now I'm kind of like I'm being devil's advocate here a little bit. So he went from 2021, he was averaging 6 6.5 yards a carry.
That's money.
2022, 5.9.
Sure.
2023, he falls another yard, and he's at 4.8.
I'm all right with that.
He did have 27 touchdowns, but you can tell he kind of fell off hard.
But
At
4.8
kinda, yeah, that scares me a little bit for college though. And just reading, he had a meniscus tear.
Ooh, that's even worse.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know.
I think you're onto something then.
I don't know if I can take him as the
Then I
second
wouldn't touch
running
him at
back.
all then.
Yeah. And like I said, he's 24. He's going to be 24 years old.
Yeah.
That
At
could
that
be.
point, I'd take Bucky Irving.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, Bucky is just a lightning bolt in a bottle. He is full-blown explosion. I think you're getting something really, really cool with that guy, to be honest.
I do like Jalen Wright out of Tennessee, though.
Okay.
Like, that guy's pretty quick, pretty strong. He's 5'11", 210.
Sure.
And then of course, I'm a little biased. I do like Braylon Allen because
All
he's
right.
6'2", 245 pounds.
Sure.
like you can't teach 245 pounds,
No, you can't. No, you're right. And I've heard a lot of things about him. I've seen him play a few times, and man, I just have not seen enough out of him that makes me think like, wow, this guy's going to take over the league. But those measurables are spot on, and he's another one. You get that guy to a really good team with an offensive line, then there's something. There really is.
Right. And he was averaging 5.5 yards a carry just about every year. But they have
Good.
him going in the fourth round. So if you could get a Braylon Allen in the fourth round, like that's pretty solid. And he just turned 20, so like he's super
that's
young
perfect.
still.
Yeah, that's perfect. I think getting that guy in round 4, boy, to be honest, I could almost see that guy going in round 3. I think a really good spot for a guy like that. And I know this team's not win-loss record good, but man, if you can put him in Arizona alongside James Conner, woo, that'd be sick.
You know who else likes big running backs is the Baltimore Ravens.
They do. Him and Derrick Henry would be quite the tandem.
Yeah, like could you imagine trying to tackle Derrick Henry for a couple plays, 3 quarters, 4 quarters, and then he's getting switched out with another 245-pound?
Yeah.
Like that would hurt. That would hurt.
I think that would actually be an excellent spot for him. I think some of these guys that aren't hyped up, they're just not really taking into account where they could be an excellent fit. Kind of like how I feel about Joe Milton. I think Joe Milton might end up being one of the best quarterbacks out of this draft, but he's obviously not going to be starting day one. So some of these guys are just going to come out of the woodwork, and I think Braden Allen is clearly one of those guys that could do that.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit of bias, but I hope so.
Yeah, no, I've heard a lot of good things about him. I personally haven't seen it, but I think he's kind of a guy that could do something like that. So I think there's something there.
Yeah, like Joe Milton is like I like the guy. Super big, what like 6'5", 6'6".
Yeah, he's got height.
And like a cannon for an arm. So like that'd be pretty solid.
Yeah. I think he you put him in the right spot behind the right coordinator. Maybe gosh, I thought Minnesota did draft a quarterback recently, but even he would be a really nice understudy to go behind Justin Herbert in Minnesota if that trade were to go down, and then have years to develop, and then maybe he becomes like a Jordan Love on another team, or kind of reminds me of like a Tyrod Taylor, kind of how Tyrod Taylor developed behind EJ Manuel for a little bit, and then became a starter and became a journeyman. Maybe something like that could happen with Joe Milton.
You really like Joe Milton? I'm okay with that.
I really do. I I look at all these guys, and I know people are talking about them, but man, honestly, like Drake May and Joe Milton, they got the build and the size that we have not seen in quarterbacks for quite a while. That if they get cleaned up and polished with a developmental quarterbacks kind of coach, and we know Drake May is actually doing that right now with Jordan Palmer. If Joe Milton gets something like that with a Shane Steichen, I think the world. I think both those guys could end up being the two best, maybe even Jaden Daniels as well. I could really see that kind of thing playing out.
Solid, very
Yeah,
solid.
yeah.
So I'm just rolling through some of the quarterback prospects I've looked at before. What about Tua's brother out of Maryland? What do you think about him?
Yes, I really like him. I've seen a few Maryland games. I've seen him play, and also the East West Shrine game. He played really really well. I don't know if he was the MVP of the game, but from what I watched, he looked like the MVP of the game. He made some crazy dynamite throws, kind of outside the pocket. He connected for a touchdown or two, and he's really solid. I think he is better than Tua Tagovailoa. Talia is solid, man. He is a really solid player. He's that quarterback that I just totally forgot about. And man, this draft is loaded with quarterbacks that I think are going to be the staying power of this next generation of quarterbacks moving forward. I think we at least get a handful of quarterbacks that become starting quarterbacks out of this draft.
So I mean, he could be Mr. Irrelevant again.
Oh yeah.
He could be the Brock Purdy of this draft.
Yeah, Brock Purdy is a great comparison. The style of play I saw with this guy, his running ability, his throwing ability, his confidence, I like him. I really, really do. He's got kind of that Spencer Rattler kind of swagger about him that I saw. That I really, really like the way he plays. So Talia is one that I forgot about, but I think he's a really, really good quarterback. And to be honest, it doesn't sound like next year is going to have that many good quarterbacks, to be honest. So I think this is definitely the draft that if you need a quarterback somehow, some way, whatever round it is, you get him. You get the one that you kind of think about that this could be our guy potentially within a year or so, being our guy moving forward. And Talia is definitely one of those guys.
Yeah, like I don't know. I thought he would be better than he was in college, but just looking at his numbers, pretty consistent all the way through.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously, ranking wise, he's not going to be way, way at the top, but I'm just saying from what I saw, there are things that I saw from him, big play potential that you can't teach, and confidence that I saw in him that you really can't teach. So I think he is definitely a guy someone's gonna want a guy like that. The thing is, too, with all of these guys we're pointing out, they have to go to teams with offensive minded head coaches that are going to survive over the next 2 years. That has to happen. If you go to a team that has a defensive minded head coach, doesn't really have a good offensive coordinator or quarterbacks coach, and the likelihood of that coach surviving over the next two years or so isn't good, then that quarterback will fail. That is for sure. And even what you pointed out with Justin Herbert, every single season except for like this past season, which he got hurt, and maybe last season, he's had a different offensive coordinator dating all the way back to his time at Oregon. So, like, you need to have consistency. And I think Justin Herbert would finally embrace having consistency in Minnesota. So, like, I think we are spot on with this with Justin Herbert going to Minnesota. It just makes a ton of sense the more you think about it.
I like it. Like that. That's one of those no debate things that we just kind of like thought about it, and it makes too much sense not to happen.
Exactly, man. That's no debate right there, man.
Now, um, I know we haven't gotten too far deep into the wide receiver class, but like
Yeah.
Brian Thomas Jr. out of LSU, like LSU with Malik Neighbors and him, like stacked.
Yes.
Now, does that make you rethink the quarterback situation? Like, if this team was so stacked at wide receiver and they had a solid running game, does that make you kind of go, oh, okay, was this the right option at quarterback if you grab oh man, why is my brain slipping? Jaden Daniels?
For me, it does not because you're still playing against the likes of Georgia, Alabama, Auburn, Missouri. You're still playing against pretty tough SEC talent in that division. So I think there's enough to, for me, justify that Jaden Daniels is a really good quarterback. And again, too, like I'm thinking more along the lines of what we've seen recently, whether it's Devontae Adams, Marvin Harrison Jr., or Garrett Wilson. All three of them are really, really darn good wide receivers and have seen a step back in their numbers because of the lack of quarterback play. That to me is more significant on the quarterback than it is the wide receiver. So if the wide receiver is having solid numbers and he should have solid numbers, then I would expect that the quarterback is fairly good. I think that is more indicative of the quarterback. The quarterback has to get them the ball, and that's where like maybe I would have almost some concern about Stephon Diggs, but Stephon Diggs is a head case. We know what he is, but that's the thing is like the Stephon Diggs effect is he has to get the ball from Josh Allen, and not anymore, but that's the way it works is your receiver gets the ball from the quarterback. If the quarterback can't get them the ball effectively, then there is a problem with the quarterback. That's not the case with the two LSU wide receivers. So right there, I am confident that Jaden Daniels is really good.
That's understandable. Um, Trying to think of other wide receivers that jumped off the board for me. Um, I really liked Kean Coleman from Florida State, like super
Yes.
fast, super
Yes.
fast,
Uh,
and
I
he's 6'4".
Yeah, and I saw him just playing the Senior Bowl. I have this FSU wide receiver question mark because I just don't know who it is. And there is a play. I want to say it was from, I think it was from Joe Milton or it was the Tulane quarterback. One of those two guys. Oh, it was. I'm pretty sure it was Joe Milton, and he just wanted that ball to be thrown like sooner or have a little more power on it. He went up and got it, but you could tell like he was a little upset at the quarterback. Yeah, I think it's that guy. And yeah, so I have this mystery FSU wide receiver. It's him. That is a guy. Also, there's a FSU defensive back. Be careful where that guy goes. That guy during the Senior Bowl actually got traded. He's like the first ever player to get traded because the other team was so lacking on players at that position. He's a defensive line guy. That's a guy that has some really good technique too, and can just basically go out there and spar, and he'll get it done.
You
So, but
said defensive line.
yeah, there's a defensive lineman from Florida State that to me is outstanding.
Ooh, now I have to try to figure out who this is.
And Florida State was the mystery team that went undefeated in the ACC and did not get into the college football playoff, and then just got boat raced by Georgia. So Florida
Braden
State's got guys.
Braden Fisk, is that the name?
That is definitely the name. Now that you say it, that rings a bell. Braden Fisk is definitely a guy that if you need support on your defensive line, that guy is an excellent player.
Okay. Speaking of guys, and he's my guy just because, I mean, Alabama, Kool-Aid McKinstry.
Yeah, it's a cool name. The guy found out too that I think he had a broken leg and he didn't even know it all this time when he got to the NFL Combine. So that's cool. But yeah, Kool-Aid McKinstry is a really cool guy. When it comes to corners, I still have the Toledo guy number one. I've seen the tape on the guy. I saw him practice.
Oh, Kenny
He's
Mitchell. Yeah.
Yeah, like no joke. He's Sauce Gardner. He will shut people down left and right. He has the swag. He has the speed. He has everything you want from a shutdown corner. So I like that guy a lot. I like him more than Kool-Aid McKinstry for sure.
Oh no, Kool-Aid's just the name that I love.
Oh, yeah, and if you've seen too, like he also has the jewelry. He has a chain with the Kool-Aid Man on it.
Mitchell though, like one of the things that really stood out for me, he had the best advanced coverage metrics
Okay,
uh, ever recorded in a 2-year sample for PFF, Pro Football Focus, and that, like, I'm like, that's insane. It
yes,
insane. Um, yeah, I do like one
Maction.
guy I do like is Cooper DeJean. I do like him from Iowa. Um,
Okay,
I like him maybe moving over to safety.
okay,
Um, because he can kind of play everywhere. Uh, big time hitter.
yeah.
More, I think more of a safety type to me.
Yeah, to me, when I was watching the Senior Bowl, Evan Wilson is a safety from Oregon who made the really good pick on Joe Milton. And what I saw in that, even though I don't see that being likely to replicate in the NFL, and I see him as almost like a Micah Hyde from seeing what Evan Wilson did, where it's like you're almost like this linebacker slash safety, yet you can also do things that kind of screw up the line of scrimmage. He almost reminds me of that really good safety, or essentially a DB that plays for the Baltimore Ravens. I forgot the guy's name, but man, the guy was everywhere. Wherever the ball was, this guy just had the mental scheming of knowing exactly where he needed to be to make a critical play. And that's kind of what I'm taking away from Evan Wilson.
Marlon Humphrey is probably the name you're looking for.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, Marlon Humphreys on Baltimore was absolutely excellent, especially in that AFC Championship game against the Chiefs.
I'm kind of running out of names that are in my brain of draft. Like I I am I am so ready for this draft to happen. Like I said when we
Yeah,
started, the
I
first couple months nothing happened, then everything happened, and then now we're just at that point where we're like, okay,
yeah.
let's get this done.
Exactly. And another one too that looks interesting but has a little bit case of the dropsies, a little bit of butterfingers, but man, this guy's breakaway speed is awesome. And if this guy has a quarterback that can really get him the ball and he can really fix the butterfingers, Tez Walker from North Carolina, he would have been Drake May's number one target. Tez Walker also from Kent State. Uh, he's a heck of a wide receiver, man. He's got great measurables, great breakaway speed, great length. Tez Walker's the guy, man. I think he probably drops to round 3, but he's a guy that can definitely make some plays. He didn't make any like legit plays in the Senior Bowl, but it showed that like he could.
Yeah, he's a weird one. Did
He
he get
is.
injured last year?
He might have. Yeah, you might be right.
Because I didn't really see him um, pop up very much. But now that I'm looking at his stats, he only played 8 games.
Sure. Okay. Okay. So he missed 2. Or he
He
missed,
put
3 technically the play or yeah, he only missed, 2 or 3 then.
he played 12 the season before and
Okay,
8 the season before that. So like
sure.
that kind of scares me a little bit.
Yeah, that's fair. Another guy I saw make really good play in pass coverage, and anytime you get this out of a linebacker, to me that just screams like NFL like caliber. Bookie Watson, linebacker out of Mississippi State. I
That's a
caught him in the
good
Senior
name.
Bowl.
That's
Yeah,
a
it is a
good
pretty
name.
cool name. It is a pretty cool name, and that is something I definitely like. What's going on there? So I don't know where this guy gets drafted. I don't know too much about him, but I saw Bookie Watson in this Senior Bowl, and I mean defensive guys go too. So I would just say based off of what I saw, I mean I would say this guy's at least a top 4 pick. I mean like a top 4 rounds pick.
Bookie. I don't even know that name. Like I can't even
Yeah.
find that guy.
Yeah, I wrote him down. I right when I saw that play in pass coverage, I was like, "Whoa, that's a thing."
And
Um,
he's a linebacker?
Linebacker from Mississippi State. Yep.
Huh. Well,
Yeah.
that's fun. That's one that I'll have to try to find later.
Yeah. He's definitely a guy that we'll look for. I also heard this Brevin Span, a tight end from Minnesota. So he might be another tight end that's kind of Dalton Kincaid-ish. I mean, obviously Brock Bowers is the guy, but I saw this guy make a nice catch from Clipboard Jesus, quarterback from Notre Dame, 2.0. I don't know the guy's name, but he's Clipboard Jesus 2.0. I can tell you that. But Brevin Span, tight end out of Minnesota, made a really nice touchdown catch.
Quarterback out of Notre Dame, huh?
Yeah, the
I,
quarterback out of Notre Dame. I can
Sam
tell
Hartman.
you, yeah, I saw Sam Hartman play in this game, and yeah, the offensive line was atrocious, but he kind of played three quarters, and he kind of played three quarters and looked really bad.
Yeah, I mean, they've got him at a seventh round grade. Uh,
I don't think he gets drafted.
yeah, I don't either. Uh, just reading
Yeah,
up on him right now, it just says he's got decent mobility, lacks arm strength, uh, to even be a preferred backup.
yeah, he's really bad, man. I saw him play. I mean, yeah, he looks awesome, but no, he is not an NFL quarterback. I can tell you that.
He's like one of those guys when you make a player on Madden and
He
you just
is.
want a cool looking player.
Yep. Exactly. That's kind of the way it goes. And yeah, obviously, guys want to transfer to Notre Dame for obvious reasons. But that's kind of what I'm seeing with that kind of stuff going. So yeah, I think that's it, man. I've kind of run my list of guys and everyone I got out there on this. That's pretty much who I'm thinking is are the guys we got to kind of keep an eye on for this draft.
That makes sense. I'm down. Like I'm mind blown.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely some crazy things to keep track of. Yeah, Minnesota, LA, they got something in the works there. But then something with too, like these other lesser known quarterbacks. I think some of them are going to fall to some really good situations, whether it's Spencer Rattler or Joe Milton. And I think they could really have a great chance at succeeding in this NFL where they don't have to be the starter day one. And I think that really sets you up for success.
Right. Yeah, I'm even mind blown for even the Green Bay Packers. I've been trying to put together thoughts on what they were going to draft and tackles or safeties or it's the draft is just frying my brain.
Yeah. I mean, maybe even ironically, Talia Tagovailoa, he would actually be a great fit for Green Bay.
Especially if you can get them in like the sixth or seventh round. Yeah.
Oh, totally. That'd be killer, man. That would be absolutely killer.
Yeah, I
So,
know that they have man, guy out of Penn State. Why am I blanking? See, this means I need to go to sleep.
oh, that's okay. Oh, yeah. I know there's some Penn State backup quarterback. People were excited about him during the preseason, but I watched him play against a bunch of third stringers. I thought he was garbage.
Well, that's just Sean Clifford.
Oh, yeah. He stinks. He is garbage. He is hot garbage.
I mean, for a backup, he's okay.
Mm-mm. No, he gotta go.
Well, geez,
Yeah, he gotta go.
somebody's got to hold the clipboard.
Someone's got to hold the clipboard, and Sam Hartman is that guy.
That's no debate.
That's no debate. Just not in Green Bay. Just not in Green Bay. So that's everything we got for tonight's show. We will recap as much as we can next week. Pretty stoked about the draft. So we will be coming in hot and heavy one day after, or actually 2 days after the draft wraps up on Saturday. And we will be here next week, Monday, 7 a.m. 7 p.m. That is looking like that is going to be our time for us moving forward. So you will see us here every Monday, 7 o'clock, here on Twitter, X, Facebook, and YouTube. So we got that. We got all those other streaming services down there. So be sure to follow, smash that subscribe button for us, and we'll see you next time. So for No Debate Sports, I'm Steve Metrics. That's your boy.
DJ Triggs.
And together we are No Debate Sports. And that's